It needs to cover your plans and procedures. You need to have stuff in place for worker engagement. Commonly that's the toolbox talks. How many of you have workers and run regular toolbox talks? Great, you record them, okay? How many of you have no employees and run regular toolbox talks? No, sorry, I just audited one the other day and he's holding a meeting every day, just him. I got the records to prove it. Risk management. Okay, so risk management is now about still identifying your hazards, but it is now about assessing the risk of those hazards, and risk is determined about how likely it is the event will occur and how badly will it injure someone if it does. Okay, so you'll be introducing risk assessment matrices into your health and safety systems. They're a good start. They give people a good picture of how it should be. I personally think as human beings we pretty well figure out straight away whether something's dangerous or not, yeah? Doesn't take too much. We all have a genetic inbuilt system to warn us. It's the hairs on the back of our neck. I've got another signal as well, but we're being taped so I can't do it today. It's called the self-preservation gene. Unfortunately, a lot of us have managed to override that often enough it's virtually useless, yeah?
Become desensitized.
Yeah, so hence going back to a chart to get us back into reality can work for a while. Trainings, inductions on sites, you'll take care of those. So if you start a new staff member, you run them through the expectations and provide them with a written copy of those expectations. Yeah. And then we still need to manage our accidents and emergencies. There's no specific requirement to investigate accidents anymore, although WorkSafe may require an investigation in the form of a duty holder review, but you still have a requirement to record your accidents. And would investigating accidents still be a good practice for a business? Accidents cost you a bucket load of money. I certainly, just from a business perspective, would be wanting to make sure that doesn't happen again.
The investigation falls under risk management now, doesn't it? It bounces back to reviewing policy and procedure.
Yeah, I'm basically quoting actual law to you. Yes, by default you can say if I've had an accident, I've actually just identified a hazard. Because that's what accidents do, isn't it? It identifies hazards, so by default you kind of then have to go through and assess the risk of that hazard. But root cause analysis is slightly different from that, and that's about finding the underlying system failures that have led to it. Yeah? So, and that's kind of a specific skill set, but it's getting away from the old Jack was careless, we've told him to be more careful, and then we've run he slipped off the ladder, so we ran a toolbox talk for everyone, so we're not just punishing Jack, we're going to punish everyone for his mistake, and then not asking questions like why was he on a ladder? Should the company have supplied a scaffold platform, would have been more appropriate for the work, those sorts of things. Right. How many of you have 10 or less staff, self-employed included? Okay, just to let you know that ACC have a workplace safety discount program that is available to you if you can show that you are doing the basics in health and safety. So you'll need a policy and you'll need some procedures to go with it. You will need the minimum legal compliance, but they'll give you a 10% rebate on your earner premiums, and if you're up near the 8, 9 or 10 mark, that's actually quite a good health and safety budget. The accreditation lasts for 3 years. How many of you got more than 10 staff? So they also have a program available to you called WSMP, a lot more hoops to jump through, so if you're doing it purely for financial reasons you might want to rethink that, but it is a really good way to get your systems in place. So I'm just alluding to you that the law's saying do this, ACC is saying do it and we'll pay you. Okay? And I come from an era where construction was paying 7 or 8 cents on the dollar. And when your wage bill is over $1 million, I can't even do that math. It's big. There's a lot of zeros on the cheque. It's back when we wrote cheques, there was no direct credit. There's no internet. God, I'm showing my age. Okay, so I'm just giving you a heads up. There are other benefits from having this stuff in place. So you'll need policies, procedures. I suppose it's a good time, and forgive me the people who were here at this morning's seminar, but it's a good time to discuss the paperwork. How many of you have to handle paperwork? Everyone? Okay, so you've developed a fondness for it? No? Why do we have paperwork? What's it for? Cover your ass? A3 is it?
It's less ambiguous about what's happening.
Yeah, that's all good. Ladies, just sit this one out a second. Gentlemen, how many of you have a partner, spouse, who has ever sent you to the supermarket to get something? Show of hands, please. I've been going multiple occasions. What do you get to take with you? The shopping list. I'm not sure that milk, eggs and bread, 3 things surely. Is that a list? Shouldn't it be at minimum 10 for a list? See, the problem is why does my good lady make me take a list with me when I go to the supermarket? Because I get the wrong thing, I forget, and the reality is all human beings are like that. Ladies are not exempt from this. They just understand how to do it more systematically and are not averse to writing a list. We as human beings can juggle 1 to 2 complex bits of information at once, and quite frankly, all this paperwork you're dealing with, I don't like paperwork. It should be simple, keep it to the minimum, but it's shopping lists. Your hazard register and risk register is a shopping list of all the things that can kill people in your business and what you're going to do about it. Is that more important than eggs and bread and milk? I was kind of looking for an enthusiastic, yeah. Yes, it is. Hell yeah. Your training and competency register is a shopping list of what you need to safely get the job done in the way of skills. It's pretty easy. Okay. Your emergency plan is a shopping list of what you are going to do if plan A fails. And we have to bring plan B in place. So I'm kind of just trying to bring you over to consider, yes, none of us like the paperwork that much. I got into construction from high school because I wasn't particularly academic. I actually scored really well at high school. I just don't like the paperwork. Construction looked good to me. I grew up on a farm. I like being outdoors, I like working hard. And so I went down that path only to discover there's all this academic stuff you have to do. Yeah? And now I understand why. It's to make sure we have the best chance. So if you're going to talk about the high risk stuff we're going to be doing today, it's really good to be able to flop a JSA or a safe work method statement in front of all the guys. Let's walk through this, guys, so we all are on the same page. It's where the saying comes from, I believe, yeah? Any questions around that? Okay. If you bring me a 500-page site-specific safety plan to analyse, I'll send it back to you because not one of you guys has read it. Okay. In fact, it's probably still got the consultant's name at the bottom that wrote it for you, and you haven't even read it. Okay. We've totally revamped all the site-specific safety plan, which has evolved over the last 15 to 16 years. It's an industry product, and it had grown up to about 36 pages, so it was getting a little out of hand here. So we took the opportunity with the new legislation to rewrite that to reflect the new legislation. That's down to about 16 pages now. So we've taken a lot of the forms out. Quite frankly, a small self-employed contractor doing relatively low-risk work, his documentation will be 4, maybe 6 pages. That's all it should be. If it's any bigger, it's just fluff. Okay? Cool. So, worker engagement, making sure you've got opportunities in place. Just be aware that the new worker engagement regulations require that if a staff member, employee requests health and safety reps, then you are obliged to initiate elections for that, and the reps will have training. So if one of your staff members or a union member representing the staff members comes to you, the only exemptions under the law for that are for organisations that work in low risk industries and have less than 20 staff. But you all told me you're construction, yeah? So you are not low risk. It's considered a high risk industry. It's specifically named in the regulations, so no exemption there. The other one is health and safety committees. And if 5 staff members ask to have a committee formed, then as an employer you have an obligation to initiate the elections for that. Now, here's the other side of that. As employers, so those of you in the room who actually own your own businesses or manage businesses, you can initiate this. which is something you couldn't do in the past. So you can initiate an election of a health and safety rep or the election of a health and safety committee in your own workplace. As an ex-employer myself, I've found it's really good when you have an organised forum to deal with your staff, especially when you get up around 120 staff here. So working well together, I've always been a strong union advocate. Even when I had my own business, although it was actually illegal, it was mandatory to be a union member to work for me, because I had good relations with the union and I wanted to maintain it that way. And none of my workers dobbed me in, so that's all good.
So you do have to have an election for that?
You have to initiate an election, because here's the thing. A worker, you might have 10 staff, one of the guys come and say, boss, I want to have health and safety reps. So you say, okay, well, we'll get an election underway, and no one steps forward, even the guy who put it up. Okay, we're done. You document that, you're good. But you do have to initiate the elections. No one gets nominated. Oh, you've done what is reasonably practicable, I feel. Same with the Health and Safety Committee. 5 guys come up and say, we want a Health and Safety Committee. None of them volunteer, no one else volunteers. And to be honest, a committee in a company that had less than 10 staff, you've kind of already got your committee here. Every time you meet, go on site, work. But I'm just bringing you to what the legal definitions are around this worker engagement. So that's some of that stuff down here for the representatives and the committees. There is a requirement for committee and representatives to have formal training, which has been developed now. CTU do it. We do the health and safety rep course as well now. There's a number of organisations that can provide that. This one here is interesting. All workers may refuse to do unsafe work. And I've got to clarify this because we've had some issues around it. That is not, unsafe work is not the same as high risk work. So a worker can't refuse, and I'm going to use a bad example here because I've been pulled up on it before, but I haven't had time to think of a better one. A lot of construction done at height. The PCBU provides a compliance scaffold to work from. It's got all its platforms, guardrails, toe boards, it's even sheeted. And the worker refused to go up because they don't like working at heights. It's a bad example because you shouldn't mentally put someone into a stressful situation. But the work is not dangerous, is it? Even though it's safe. It's not, but it's still high risk. So a worker can't refuse to do work that is high risk unless that risk has not been managed, and then it is unsafe. So I just wanted to be clear about that.
Under the new legislation, you're also responsible for the personal health and safety of the individual.
Yeah.
So mental health will come into play.
Yeah, which is why it's a crap example, but like I said, I haven't had a chance to think up a better one. Someone said to me, oh, you can't put, I said, that's not a health and safety issue, that's a recruiting issue. You're a scaffolding company and you hire someone with a fear of heights, I think you got what you got.
Like, what about if you've got an example where everybody's working a site and someone says it's too slippery for me, everybody else is going for it, I'm going home.
Yeah.
You know, is that going to be cleared up in the employment court later?
Yeah, or at the bottom of the hill, I don't know, whichever.
Yeah.
When the rest of them, when the guy who complained left and the rest of them end up at the bottom of the hill, I think it'll become obvious. I'm not going to go into that one too deep because we are going to have individual case-by-case basis come up, because would it be fair to say as human beings we all have a unique perception on things? So is that going to arise? Almost certainly. How's it going to be resolved? Well, that's why we have health and safety reps. One of the duties of the health and safety rep is to present reasonable issues to the employer or the PCBU, and if they can't, despite good faith negotiation or talks, resolve the issue, then that's when you bring in WorkSafe to make a decision on it. So that's another good reason to have health and safety reps. But I get what you're saying. Is it slippery?
Yeah, any task.
Yeah. I'm liking to think we're at a stage where the employers and the employees can actually sit down and discuss that thing. But yeah, I get where you're coming. There's always that one guy. We had one working here for a long time. Everything, health and safety. Wrote a task analysis for changing light bulbs. You know, that's nice. I'm going to move on.